If you think the price of winning is too high, wait till you get the bill from regret.
What a great day to be a dog. How you doing? Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yep, that's right, it is me, Uncle Lou. Live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. This is the Your Season is Over video. Week 5 edition for the 2023 college football season. And you already know, I got the copious notes. Yesterday was a great day in the world of college football. An amazing week 5, going all the way back to Friday with the Utah game. Doing it a little different today. Not gonna skip to the intro where I take the helmets off. We're gonna take them off as we go here. But man, what a glorious list of losers we had yesterday. Lots to choose from. It was a little disappointing to me yesterday, only in that there were really no major upsets. No major, I don't think any top 10 teams lost. Utah lost. They were close to the top 10 depending on which polls or rankings you look at or believe in. But, you know, Utah, LSU, and Duke. Those were kind of the 3 highly ranked teams that lost. Duke lost to another really good team in Notre Dame. LSU lost to Ole Miss. We'll talk about that. What else? Utah lost to Oregon State, a decent team too. So not a whole lot of point and laugh specials yesterday in terms of like huge favorites losing, but some funny losses nonetheless. Welcome to the Your Season is Over video, the only Sunday morning college football recap show that actually matters. That's right. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. That's a big help to this video. So please hit that thumbs up right now as we get ready to get into the video. Which losers do we want to start with today? Well, you know what? Let's start with this one. This was a wild game. Where are you at? Here you are. This was a wild game. Man, leave it to the corn dogs and LSU. Let's put you over here on the loser table. Leave it to the corn dogs, LSU, and Brian Kelly to prove Uncle Lou wrong about my buddy Lane Kiffin. I've been on and on about how Lane can't win a big game. Y'all can debate in the comment section about how big of a game this was, but LSU only had the one loss. That was opening week against Florida State, a team that's in the top 4 and 5 of every poll you look at. So as far as the losses go, that's considered a decent loss. Now, they got blown out, and that was a problem, right? But they've looked pretty good since then. Where did I have them? Well, I didn't even have them in my top 10, but they were close. I think I had them 11 or 12 in my most recent ranking, so they were close. Ole Miss, on the other hand, of course, had lost on the road to Alabama the week before like they always do. Big game Lane coming through again with a giant L on the road at Tuscaloosa. At home in Ole Miss, though. Corn dogs, your season is literally over. You can still play for the SEC title because you only have one SEC loss, and you still get to play Texas A&M and Bama. But this is a case where the good news is also the bad news. Yeah, it's good that you only have one SEC loss, and you still get a chance to knock off Bama and Texas A&M, which will put you ahead of them. The bad news is You still got to play Bama and Texas A&M. You're not likely to win both of those games. Not with that defense I saw yesterday. Holy moly. Defense optional in the SEC West. Wow. What was the score of this thing? 55-49, a literal track meet. I felt like I was watching like an old school, like a Texas versus Oklahoma from 4, 5, 6 years ago, or any random Big 12 game, Oklahoma State versus Baylor from 6 years ago or something, where they used to score 50 and 60 points every single week in them track meet games. This one was crazy. 1,300 total yards, over 1,300 total yards in that game. Yes, I think that was a bad call at the end, but what are you going to do? You can't don't let the game be so close that it comes down to a referee's call near the end of the game. I don't think he had possession of the ball. Now, we can debate it till the cows come home, and of course, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Nothing you can do. Turns out it didn't matter. Ole Miss won the game. Anyway, LSU, your season is legitimately over. You're not getting into a 4-team college football playoff with 2 losses. Maybe with 1, but you don't have 1. You've got 2, not 1. Dummies. Season is over. Brian Kelly won't get a chance to shit himself in a major postseason bowl like he has become so accustomed to doing. Like I said, can still make the SEC title game and lose to Georgia if that's what you feel like doing, but a couple of hurdles you got to get over. You still got Bama. That's at Bama 2. Texas said it don't matter if it's at Bama, though, didn't they, Bama man? Huh? Hey, Bama man, it don't matter, does it? Home, away, y'all can be beat. Of course you can. LSU, we'll see if you can do it later on down the road. And then, of course, you still got to play Texas A&M and the rest of your conference schedule as well. LSU has a game. Who else is LSU? Well, they play South Carolina. I don't know how much that matters. We'll get to them in a minute. But LSU, your game is over. I saw Jaden Daniels get picked up again yesterday. People are making a habit of picking up this rag doll, Jaden Daniels, this quarterback for LSU. Is he still winning the Heisman? Just curious. Anybody seen James? Need a welfare check on that. You have to get child services over there to check on that 9-year-old dolt. Anyway, shout out to that lunatic. Thank God he disappeared a couple of weeks ago, so we don't have to wonder where he's at now. He's been gone for a while. A lot of other LSU fans be gone too. I'll give credit to Lane Kiffin. This is a big win for him. And while I still don't necessarily trust Lane Kiffin, still wouldn't want him anywhere near my program. If you're going to go around saying a guy can't win a big game, you got to give him credit when he wins a big game. And whatever you think about LSU as a team or whatever, this was a big game for Ole Miss. Coming off that loss last week, they had to have this win. They absolutely had to have this win. Like LSU, they've got tough games still to come. They still have to play Texas A&M. They play on the road in Athens. They gotta go to Athens and play the back-to-back defending champions, the currently ranked number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, who are 5-0. The longest winning streak in the country. Longest home winning streak in the country, 2-2. And man, it's a 2-step process of revenge this year for Georgia. Revenge seems to be the theme, right? Tennessee, man, don't worry. We're going to talk about dark mode activated, I promise. But let's, what am I doing? Just jumping all over the place here. LSU, your season's over. So it was a 2-step process, revenge process for Georgia this year, right? We're talking about revenge. You're 15-0 last year and dominated the universe and won your 2nd straight national title. I know. But coming into this year, there was one team in the SEC that Kirby Smart has yet to beat, and it's Ole Miss. Who was the coach of Ole Miss? Well, the game was played in 2016, Kirby's first year on the road in Ole Miss early in the year, and they absolutely whooped Georgia. Whooped them bad, bent them over, spanked their little bottom blue. Bad game for Georgia. They were 7-5 that year. Ended up being 8-5 after a bowl win. But Ole Miss got the win over them. We hadn't played Ole Miss since then. So Kirby still no win over Ole Miss. But who was the coach of Ole Miss in 2016? That's right, everyone's favorite creepy uncle, Hugh Freeze. No, not me. I'm your second favorite uncle. Am I creepy? Maybe a little, but in a different type of way. Hugh Freeze. Wow. So yeah, Kirby Smart was winless against Hugh Freeze, 0-1. Now he has a win over Hugh Freeze. Later in the season in November, step 2, get that win over Ole Miss. Boy, I can't wait for the Lane train to pull into Athens and take an absolute beating. But shoot, we got plenty of football between now and then, Ole Miss, man. Don't worry about it. Go and enjoy a couple of wins over bad teams and a couple of losses over good teams between now and then, which is happening. Then when you come to Athens, we'll handle that business then, buddy. How'd that be? I think that'd be just fine. Speaking of Georgia, E-I-E-I-O. And on that barn, they didn't have a passing game. E-I-E-I-O. With a handoff here and a zone read there, quarterback keep and a handoff here, toss sweep there, trap play here, inside zone, outside zone, E-I-E-I-O. God, y'all can't throw the ball. I love to keep the comments coming. Keep them coming. If Auburn could throw the ball, Georgia lost this game. You know what my favorite one is? If Georgia didn't have Brock Bowers. If Georgia didn't have Brock Bowers, they'd have lost this game. Oh, you mean so? If Georgia didn't recruit and have the players, hey, you're lucky you have good players, woo. If you didn't have good players, you wouldn't win. Hey, ooh, you figured it out. You figured it out. If you didn't have the best player on your team, you wouldn't be winning national titles and winning 100 games in a row, woo. What's Alabama's record without Bryce Young last year? Huh? What's Tennessee's record without Hendon Hooker last year? Huh? Y'all are talking about a fucking tight end, man. Grow the fuck up. Grow up, man. What are you stuff? You know, if Georgia didn't recruit really good, have a bunch of good players and a great coaching staff and an excellent game plan, somebody might could beat them. Yeah, but they can't. They can't. Least of all Auburn. Shout out to Auburn, though. Ran the ball well, over 200 yards. Who was the last team to run the ball like that on Georgia? That's right, Auburn, way back in 2017. Congratulations. You tried real hard. Look, I wish I could somehow just get Auburn into this room so I could pat them on the head and tell them how proud I am. I thought they tried really hard. Georgia helped them out, turned the ball over, 3 times, whatever it was. You just couldn't capitalize. I don't want to tell you. Reality is you're just not good enough. Did Georgia play great? No. Newsflash, have they played great all year? No. Listen. This goes to everybody, not just Auburn, man. Somebody's got to beat Georgia. That's it. You can type until your fingers fall off. Somebody's got to beat them. They played like shit against UAB. Yeah, won by 42. Played like shit against UT Martin. Yeah, won by 40. Played like shit against whatever, fill in the blank. Who else? South Carolina. Yeah, won by 10. Played like shit against Auburn. Yeah, won by 7. You see the common thread between all of that? It's one. These fans that are running around going, like, Florida, who got blown out by Kentucky. We'll talk about that. You know, Florida fans, Tennessee fans, Alabama fans, Notre Dame fans, Clemson fans, any fans of any team that have lost a game, they show up and go, yeah, you know, I know we lost, but you barely won. Like, y'all just don't get it. Y'all just don't get it. Tennessee's a great example. Yesterday was their Super Bowl. Why? What are you doing? You've spent your entire offseason with a goal of beating South Carolina at home at night in a Halloween costume uniform in September. Think about what you're saying. Do you think Georgia's goal is to beat Auburn by 40? No. What? Georgia's goal doesn't have anything to do with September. Fuck, God almighty. This is what's wrong with these teams that have just been perpetually losing. They don't even know what it's like to have a winning attitude. Look, Georgia's not last year's team. Nobody in college football is last year's team. Some teams better, some teams worse. Beat them. Beat them. Y'all are already now starting the same things y'all always do about Georgia every year. In the offseason, we're not playing anybody. That's all I hear. Oh, Georgia cakewalk, cruise to the SEC title game. They'll get to the playoffs before they play anybody any good. Season starts, every week we're going to lose. I heard it this week. Well, Carson Beck ain't looked too good. Never mind, he was 14th in the country in passing heading into the Auburn game. And he threw for another 316 yards this weekend. Carson Beck is fine. There's nothing wrong with Carson Beck. Georgia's got issues. You want to know what they are? Offensive line, particularly run blocking. Running backs in general, not very talented. And defense has not been at the level that we're used to seeing a Georgia defense play at. Those 3 things are concerning. Not Carson Beck, you fucking idiot. Carson Beck can go to Auburn and we win on the road. Auburn had beat the last 4 times Auburn hosted a number 1 ranked team. Auburn beat them. That's a tough place to play. I've told you all week. I said in the video leading up to the game, the only thing that worries me about this game is the fact that it's at Auburn. That's a tough place to play. Georgia went in there and won the game. Carson Beck looked great. Carson Beck looked great. Beat Georgia. You can't. You can't beat Georgia. You can type, but you can't beat them. But I hear the same thing. You don't play nobody, cakewalk schedule, cruise to the play out of. Then the season starts, we're going to lose there. Auburn was going to be. Now we beat them. Oh, yeah, you beat Auburn, but you didn't look good. Now, already. Woo. I know you scared. You see what Kentucky did, woo? You see what Kentucky went for 900 yards on you, woo? Kentucky did win over 900 yards, woo? Okay. And you same morons typing that, you already know the minute that game ends on Saturday and Georgia's victorious, which is what's going to happen over Kentucky next week, you already know what you're going to say. Well, Kentucky wasn't any good. I'm not saying they are or they aren't, but you're going to spend all week telling me we're going to lose. Y'all do this every year. Every fucking year. And you're doing it again. You're doing it again. Auburn, your season is over. Hugh Freeze have to try again next year. Bunch more losses coming from you. Probably the worst quarterback situation in the SEC. Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford, what did they throw for 40, 60 yards, something like that? Just horrendous. Did I write any of this down? Some of this stuff blew my mind. I'm not a stats guy, but sometimes when I watch the game, certain things will stand out so much that I'll just have to go and look them up. So I did. I went and looked them up. Barn, 2 of 12 on third downs. Why could that be? Oh, yeah, can't throw the ball. 2 of 12 on third downs. Wow. Keep up the good work. Georgia, 8 of 13. That's all I need to know. 4 of 4 in the red zone for Georgia. Georgia got in the red zone 4 times. They scored 4 times. So, hey, what are you going to do? 98-yard touchdown drive by Carson Beck when we needed it the most. We wouldn't have been Brock Bauer. Yeah, if we didn't have any players, Auburn could have beat us. I'll agree. You know why Auburn lost? Because they don't have players. Oh, my God, my mind is really fucking blown. You guys are finally starting to figure out football. How many years have I been telling y'all recruiting is 90% of the game? Recruiting is 90% of winning in college football. The other 10% is development, strategy, coaching, offensive and defensive coordinators, game planning, scheming, all that. That's 10%. 90% is talent. Georgia wins a game because they have the best player in the country on their team, and you're like, if Georgia didn't have a bunch of good players, they'd probably lose the game. I agree. That's why Auburn lost. They don't have enough good players on the team. Fuck. Y'all are... The amount of dumb, I swear to God, if I could bottle up the dumb that comes out of my comment section, it would, scientists study it for years. Brock Bowers, 157 yards, 121 of them in the fourth quarter. If you didn't have any good players. Yeah, well, we do. So Kirby beats Hugh Freeze. That's good. 10-10 at halftime. Turnovers. Wow, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing you can do. Auburn, your season's over. Auburn will go into that mode. Auburn's not any good, and they're not any good. They're going to lose several more games. They're just going to go into this mode now where their only goal is to try to be competitive with Alabama at the end of the season, which will probably happen because Alabama's not any good. Graham cracker time. Graham cracker time. Let's put the graham crackers right there in the middle. Hey. Graham crackers. I guess we'll grab the helmet too. Why not? Why not? What is this? The actual fuck. Ray Davis had like 210 yards rushing in the first half. And when you first read that stat already, if you didn't watch the game, here's what you're thinking. Well, he must have had like 2 80-yard runs or something. No, he had one long run, but this guy had like 15 carries. And this guy was averaging 20 yards a carry. When you see that somebody's averaging 20 yards a carry, it's usually like a wide receiver, and they only had like 2 carries, like on a reverse or a jet sweep, and one was like for 60 yards and one was like for 3. So it's like 2 carries, 60 yards, 30-yard average. You usually don't see a running back who carries the ball 15, 20 times with a 20-yard average. What makes this particularly funny, besides the obvious, which is that Sunbelt Billy doesn't know what he's doing and he's in over his head. Next year will be his last year as head coach at Florida. Besides all that, what makes this particularly funny is Florida's played a couple of just absolute cans of corn, like Charlotte, like held Charlotte to like 7 points or something, 9 point, whatever it was. Now they couldn't score either. Florida, remember, they only scored 1 touchdown against Charlotte. Anyway. But they've been on this kick like for the last 2 weeks that they've got the best defense in the SEC, a top 5 defense in the country. Their defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong's the next Kirby Smart. He's head coach material. He's the next superstar in the galaxy of college football and all that. Then you come out against Kentucky and let them boat race you on the ground. You don't see too many boat racings in college football on the ground. You saw it yesterday. Kentucky, look. Take everything I've ever said about Ohio State and how soft they have been in the past. That applies to Florida right now times 1,000,000. I haven't seen, it's been a long time. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I think I said it yesterday. I'm not going to come on here and say that Ray Davis is the best running back in all of college football because he had an amazing game yesterday. He might be the best running back in college football. I don't know, but I'm not going to come on here and say that. There's some studs out there running the ball. But yesterday was the best performance by a college football running back of the season so far, period. Now, we'll see what that means going forward for Kentucky and Ray Davis. I mean, the guy's been wasting away at Vanderbilt for years. He transfers out to Kentucky, and all of a sudden, he's putting up 300 yards on friggin' Florida. It was unreal to see. I mean, Florida just had no answers. It was alarming if you're a Florida man. Now, if you've been listening to Uncle Lou, you wouldn't have been surprised at all. I told you when Florida beat Tennessee, I said, this does not change my opinion of Florida. It changes my opinion of Tennessee. I thought Tennessee was going to be a good team this year, get to 10 or 11 wins, compete to win the East, possibly the SEC, and possibly the playoff. And Florida was going to be an absolute abject failure and disaster. Tennessee goes down to Florida in week 2 or 3, whatever it was, and Florida beats the absolute soul and will to live out of them. And some people overreact. Oh, I told you Florida was really good. No, Florida is not really good at all. In fact, they're really bad. That Florida-Tennessee game should have told you one thing. Tennessee ain't it, Jack. But woo, Tennessee won their Super Bowl. Tennessee ain't it, Jack. Tennessee fans are reverting back to a familiar refrain from last year as well. Woo. You only scored this many points on South Carolina, and we scored this many points on South Carolina. We beat South Carolina by this many points, and you only and your band up by that many points. Y'all did this last year with like Missouri and any other team that you played that you put up 40 or 50 points on. You did the same thing. When are y'all going to learn? Football is about matchups. Football is about matchups, momentum. In a lot of cases, home field advantage can be a huge factor one way or the other. It's not a transitive sport. I don't understand. There are 9-year-olds that can tell you the transitive property does not apply in college football. Y'all did all this last year. You beat Mizzou 26-22. We beat Mizzou 189-11. Therefore, we're beating Georgia by 700. Yeah, I don't understand. Y'all are fucking weird. Florida, y'all are just absolutely horrific. Ray Davis ran all over you. You remember last week at the end of the Notre Dame-Ohio State game when Ohio State scored the game-winning touchdown and Notre Dame only had 10 men on the field and we clowned them. Ha, ha, ha. You screwed up. Cost you the game. You only had 10 men on the field. Well, Florida was paying attention. And there's Sunbelt Billy sitting down there going, we ain't getting caught with 10 players on the field in critical situations down near the goal line. No. What was his solution? We're going to put 13 players out there. Florida had 13 players on defense, still couldn't keep Kentucky out of the end zone. Turns out 13 shitty players is really no better than 11 shitty players. Shut up, Woo. Wait till DJ Wagway gets here. Yeah, wait till DJ Wagway. But DJ Wagway's coming. DJ Wagway's coming. Who gives a shit? Who cares? God, he's probably not even playing next year. Look at look at Florida's schedule next year. Do I have it pulled up? I mean, we already look. This current season for Florida was over before it started. I mean, come on. Not just me. Literally everyone told you this. Literally everyone told you this in the offseason about Florida. What are we looking for? Florida's schedule. Florida's season this year was over before it started. We told you, Utah, Tennessee, likely losses. Well, you did beat Tennessee, but you lost to Utah. Kentucky, lost. LSU, lost. Georgia, lost. Florida State, lost. South Carolina and Mizzou. You might split those. Maybe you split those. Florida's a 5 or a 6 win team. That's what they're fighting for right now. Florida's fighting the rest of this season for bowl eligibility. That's it. But let's look at next year. Next year, Florida plays the Miami Hurricanes. Loss. The Florida State Seminoles. Loss. The UCF Central Knights. Central Florida. Loss. You have to lose to 3 teams in your own state next year. Miami, Florida State, and Central Florida. Those are all losses. Well, what about your conference schedule? Well, I'm glad you asked. You play Georgia. Loss. You play Kentucky. Do I even need to tell you? You play LSU. You play Ole Miss. You play Texas A&M. You play Mississippi State. Okay, you might beat Mississippi State. You play at Tennessee. And you play the Texas Longhorns. Florida, 3-4 wins next year. It's going to be even worse. So next year's Sunbelt Billy's last year. D-Way Wagway. Good. Hire a coach that can coach D-Way Wagway up then. Because it ain't going to be Billy Napier. He's not going to be around. Florida, your season's over. Ended in September. How's that make you feel? Steve Spurrier was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah. Hey, how many national titles does Steve Spurrier have? How many? Somebody let me know in the comments. How many national titles? Steve Spurrier. Oh, the great Steve Spurrier. How many national titles do you have? Fuck Steve Spurrier with a rusty fucking rake. Old decrepit ass motherfucker. Him and Lou Holtz. Oh. Here we go. Where's this pile of shit? There it is. You know, this is where like my sadistic nature really comes out. I've got some good friends who are Georgia Tech fans. A couple of them are here on YouTube, C-Dog and Rec Talk. They're great guys. They're great guys. Diehard college football fans and just all around good people. And Georgia Tech being shitty the last couple of years, even though maybe they didn't outwardly admit it, deep down, they knew last year Georgia Tech wasn't going to be any good. I think they even knew the year before Georgia Tech wasn't going to be any good. So last year and the year before when Georgia Tech comes out and they're not any good, yeah, you know, you poke at them a little, you needle them a little bit, you laugh at them when they lose, but you're really not getting satisfaction from that because even their own fans knew they weren't going to be any good. That's not the case this year. That's not the case at all. These nerds thought they had something this year. They really did. They really did. They bought in hook, line, and sinker to everything Brent Key was selling them. They thought they were winning. Forget making a bowl game. These 5-star dummies thought they were winning 7, 8, maybe 9 games. So this year, when they go out and get absolutely humiliated by Bowling Green. Bowling Green is so bad, I don't even have their helmet up here with the group of 5 helmets. All these helmets on the top 2 shelves, those are all group of 5 and FCS and Service Academy helmets and stuff like that. Bowling Green, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, first 4 rows were Power 5. Bowling Green's so bad, I ain't even bother getting their helmet put up there. They went out and absolutely humiliated the North Avenue Nerds. Georgia Tech yesterday. Bowling Green is a terrible team. Just terrible. 38-27. I don't know. I'm not sure what Georgia Tech is trying to do. They bring Haynes King in, and he's a Texas A&M throwaway. He's got some talent, some being the key word there, but he's got nothing really around him. Georgia Tech ran the ball yesterday with their running backs 10 times. That's it. Haynes King was their leading rusher, so he, they pressure him, he takes off running or whatever, even a couple of design runs maybe. But I don't understand being Georgia Tech and going into a game going, we're only going to run the ball 10 times with our running backs. The rest of it's just going to be passes and Haynes King runs. Georgia Tech's horrendous. They are terrible. They are years away. And so what makes this especially kind of fun, this is where the sadistic part in me kind of comes out. I'm kind of enjoying that people like C-Dog and Rec Talk actually thought Georgia Tech was going to be good this year, and now they're not. The last couple of years, like I said, they knew Georgia Tech was swimming in a shallow toilet bowl. They knew that. So making fun of them when they lost, you can only get so much pleasure out of that when the other person knows they weren't any good anyway. These two people actually bought in and thought Georgia Tech was going to be good. And boy, they're anything but good. They're horrendous. Georgia Tech's got a serious problem, and it really doesn't have anything to do with what you're seeing when the product that Georgia Tech is putting on the field is a symptom of a bigger problem at Georgia Tech. And the problem is the Georgia Tech administration cannot decide if they want to go all in on football or not. And we've talked about this before at length, so I'm not going to get into it here. But in today's college football, you have to decide as a university if you're all in on football or not. If you're not, not only are you not going to win national titles, you're not even going to be competitive. You're just not, because of NIL, because of the coaching salaries that are demanded by coaches now, not just head coaches, but coordinators and assistants. If you don't decide as a university that you're all in on athletics, sports, and football in particular, you just have no chance in modern football. And that is the state that Georgia Tech is in right now. So until their administration gets it together, there is not much that the coaching staff or the athletic director is going to be able to do to save Georgia Tech. It is what it is. They're an absolute disaster. Now, there aren't any Duke fans. I like this Duke helmet. It doesn't show up well on on camera, but it's a matte black Duke helmet with the shiny D. I don't know when in the hell they ever wore this thing, but I do like that Duke helmet. Great game. Somebody give me an update on Riley Leonard in the comments if you have one. Brew McCoy too, and we'll talk about him in a minute. You just hate to see these things. Look, all injuries are bad. I don't like it when a player strains his calf or something and has to be out for a week. Like, I don't like that. Never mind these injuries that look like they could be a lot more serious. In the case of Brew McCoy, we'll get to Brew McCoy in a minute. Let's stick with Riley Leonard. Another just gutsy performance here by Duke quarterback Riley Leonard, and he goes down pretty much on the last play of the game. An amazing, just an unbelievable. You remember how amazing Ohio State's last-minute touchdown drive was last week against Notre Dame to get the win? Notre Dame did the same thing to Duke. Notre Dame gets the ball back. They drive the length of the field. They completed multiple third downs to keep the drive alive when they had no timeout. The fourth and, was it 4th and 16? 4th and 12? 4th and 9? It was something like the 4th and really long. And Sam Hartman takes off running and dives for that first down. I mean, there's no way anybody was sitting down watching the end of that game. Now, I've got a sickness and a disease. I stand up all day long on Saturday. In fact, I stand right here in front of these TVs, and I take turns yelling at all three of them TVs. That's just me. I've got a sickness and a disease. But even if you're a normal, rational human being and you sit in a chair like a normal person would do to watch your football, there's no way you were sitting down at the end of that Notre Dame Duke game. It was unbelievable. Notre Dame was winning the entire game, 10-0 at one point. Duke comes storming back, takes a 14 to 10 lead. Anyway, Notre Dame scores at the end, wins the game. Absolutely unbelievable game. Absolutely an unbelievable game. And I 100% think Duke can win the ACC. I'm not predicting that they do. Duke's not a fluke is what I'm saying. You don't beat Clemson in week 1, 28-7, and then give Notre Dame everything they want a month later in a close loss, and nothing but blowout wins in between, and you're a fluky team. Now, Riley Leonard's got to be okay, and we'll see on that. But they've already beat Clemson, and Clemson's got 2 losses, so they're 3 games up on Clemson. Now, so you got Florida State, of course, Miami still with no losses, North Carolina looks good, but Duke is in there in that conversation. Like it's Florida State, Duke, Miami, North Carolina to me. That's it. That's the ACC in a nutshell. Two of those teams are playing for the ACC title. One of them's winning it. That's my opinion. And I don't think there's two tiers there. I don't think Duke is miles below those other teams. Like Duke can 100%. It's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. Duke is a good team. Duke is a good team, but they lost. So for purposes of this video, your season's over. We all know your season's not over. No, it's a metaphor. This doesn't. Everybody's got more games to play. Calm down, Duke, man. Plus basketball season be here soon. 21-14, you lost. I'm sorry. I think I said 17-14. It's 21-14. Yeah, 4th and 16 is what they picked that 4th and 16 there. What else? What else we gonna do? Oh no, man, this don't make me. This is another one that's not really that fun to make fun of, is it? Are there a bunch of people out there hating Utah that I'm unaware of? I don't think so. We got to add Utah to the doo-doo pile. Unlike Duke, who lost, but I'm still optimistic on their future for this year, not the case with Utah. Utah's the Iowa of the Pac-12. Now, I know Cam Rising is still out, and I'm willing to give them some leeway there because of that. Their offense is non-existent, other than playing Florida. And Florida's just a horrific team. I mean, it's terrible. We know that now for 100% for certain. Utah scored, one touchdown? This was a Friday night game. They played Oregon State. 21-7, they lost to Oregon State. Defense playing well. I know it was on the road Friday night. You see a lot of weird results. But this is a pattern now for Utah. They played UCLA the week before. They only beat UCLA 14-7. That was a home game for Utah, by the way. Only beat them 14-7. And one of those touchdowns, they scored 2 touchdowns. One of them was a pick 6. So this is 2 weeks in a row they've only managed to score 1 offensive touchdown. It's a problem. Yeah, it's a big problem. And look at Utah's schedule. It ain't too friendly coming up. So I don't think Utah's making the Pac-12 title game this year now, much less winning it. I don't. And it doesn't give me any pleasure or joy to say that. Hell, I had Utah at 10. I thought they were a legitimately good team. And I do think they'll be better when Cam Rising returns, whenever that is. The problem is you have to make it out of the first month of the season with no losses in Pac-12. You just have to, because there's too many teams that are good enough to beat each other. Utah's not running the table, and I don't think they're getting in with 2 losses. I don't. I think the Pac-12 is good enough this year where at a minimum you're going to have a couple of 1-loss teams into the Pac-12 title game. I just don't think it's going to be Utah. I think they're going to lose more games. So Utah, your season is over. You need to find an offense quick, fast, and in a hurry, because breaking news, you know who does have an offense? Oregon, Washington, Southern Cal, Colorado. Boy, how many would they score on you? I know you got a good defense, but come on, man. Speaking of the Pac-12, how you doing? Keep it moving. How you doing? Keep it moving. Well, y'all might well get used to being on this table. Now, first of all, per usual, there aren't any Colorado fans, so I'm not, nothing to say to them. There aren't any. There's 1 or 2. To those of you, y'all are an improved team. Way improved over what you have been. Now, to everybody else, which is the Deion fans. You lost again. You thought you was going to come back and win, didn't you? Yeah, that's the Southern Cal effect. Or more specifically, the Lincoln Riley effect. And you fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. So this is what Southern Cal does. They don't play defense. See, your offense was just horrible in the first half. This isn't a case of Southern Cal playing great defense in the first half and terrible defense in the second half. No. Southern Cal's not capable of playing good defense. A Lincoln Riley team is not capable of playing good defense. If everybody hasn't figured that out by yesterday, then I don't know what to tell you. You've got your head buried in the sand. Really, the Southern Cal fans who need to be talked to here more than even the Deion fans, because, well, you can't tell the Deion fans anything anyway. They don't care. They're just Deion fans. They don't even know or understand anything about college football. Most of them came from the NFL circles, so they live in a world where 4, 5, 6 losses will get you into the playoffs. So their glass is constantly half full with Colorado sitting on 2 losses. A lot more coming too. Yeah, it is. Colorado's not a very good team. This just in. Breaking news, alert the news media. Southern Cal. Now, to be the truth in advertising, I picked Southern Cal to make the playoffs this year. Last week, I had them ranked 9th. Okay? And they won. So I think they'll probably still be in the top 10. But here's the thing. Do I think Southern Cal can still make the playoffs? Yeah, I do. But I'll tell you the same thing I said when I made the prediction about Southern Cal making the playoffs in the offseason. That's all they'll do. They won't win a game. I don't care who. If Southern Cal makes the playoffs, it doesn't matter who they get matched up with. They will lose. Lincoln Riley has made the playoffs 3 times with the exact same team we are seeing this year at Southern Cal. Exactly the same. A Baker Mayfield high-flying offense that can run the ball really, really good. That's what they had in 2017. The Kyler Murray teams that made it. He made it 3 times. Didn't win it, lost in the first round every single time because he got outscored. That will happen if Southern Cal makes the playoffs this year, 100%. So if there are already Southern Cal fans out there who have hopes and dreams of winning a national title this year, let Uncle Lou be the one to welcome you back to reality. No, you're not. You might still make the playoffs. The reason I say that is because anybody that wins the Pac-12 with 1 or less losses is going to make the playoffs. And you have made it out of the month of September with 0 losses. That's great. You've got 1 mulligan still. You could lose 1 game. Doesn't even matter which one it is. As long as you have 1 or less losses and you host the Pac-12 championship trophy the first Saturday in December, you're headed to the playoffs, where you will lose to whoever you play. Because for the 7th, 8th year in a row, whatever it is, Lincoln Riley doesn't give 1 hoot or a country fucking holler about defense. He just doesn't. He brought back Alex Grinch. Should have been fired. I guess his 3rd year with Alex Grinch. He brought him from Oklahoma. It's a horrible defense. Out of position. Can't make tackles. Looks out of breath. Looks out of shape. Poor technique. Everything you can do wrong defensively, a Lincoln Riley team does it wrong year in and year out. And it never changes. And until it does, I'm not going to believe that it can. We're a month into the season. You gave up 28 points to a terrible Arizona State team. You let Colorado score, 30 points on you in the second half, 40 points on you in the second, whatever. It's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. It would drive me up the fucking wall to have a team that was this good offensively and know that because my head coach is willfully neglecting half of the game of football defense, that we're just not going anywhere. But Colorado, season's over. Southern Cal, yours isn't over until you lose the first round of the playoffs. Congratulations. Appreciate everything you do. You know who else lost yesterday that was undefeated? This will be the last helmet. This will be the last helmet. Then we'll talk about some other things. There's some other things I want to talk about today, if that's all right with you ladies and gentlemen, there in the comment section. Where the hell is it? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Kansas. For the 2nd year in a row, Kansas makes it to week 5 or 6 before appearing on the Your Season Is Over video. I thought this had potential to be an interesting game. I did pick Texas to win, and they did. Right before kickoff, I found out Jalen Daniels, Kansas starting quarterback, wasn't playing, and I said, well, Kansas has no chance. They hung around for a little bit, but just too much Texas yesterday. Final score 40-14. No Jalen Daniels, like I mentioned. Quinn Ewers looked good. I'm drawing a blank on that running back's name. Jonathan Brooks. Am I getting that right, Texas man? Anyway, he had a great game. He looked really good. Texas might be the team right now that I'm most confident will make the playoffs. The SEC is kind of a mess. The Pac-12 is a blender. The Big Ten, I think there's 3 teams that are good enough to make the playoffs. Who knows what will happen? They all play each other. You know who they are. The ACC, I don't know if anybody's going to make it from the ACC. Maybe Florida State. We'll see. But anyway, and I'm not 100% certain Texas is going to make the playoffs. I'm just saying if I had to pick right now the team I think I'm most certain, it might be Texas. Now, they play Oklahoma this coming week, and that's going to be a great game. Oklahoma's been flying under the radar. No one's talking about them. No one's paying attention to them. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Don't look now. But yes, top 5 offense, top 5 defense. And they're out for blood in this game after just getting absolutely humiliated last year, 49-0. I'm going to make my pick on this game later in the week. I'll tell you right now, I'm leaning Texas. Experience, overall talent edge. Offensively, they've got Quinn Ewers, who's playing at a high level, and 2 or 3 NFL wide receivers. The ground game is really coming along. I mentioned the running back earlier. And we saw against Alabama, their front 4 is just a big problem for anybody they play. I'm not saying that means they're going to beat Oklahoma, but I'm leaning Texas right now. But Oklahoma's a team to watch. They are flying under the radar, and they look pretty good. But Kansas, your season is over. Once again, all right, that's it. That's the helmets. There you go. Point and laugh. But we got a lot more to talk about here. We're at about 40 minutes. Let's keep it going here. For the second year in a row, Uncle Lou's shoulders are getting heavy. Why does the SEC East have to continually carry the SEC West? I'm getting tired of it. The SEC as a whole needs to step up. The East cannot just be dragging the West along like 7 dead bodies. We can't continue to do this year after year. Here we are 1 month into the season, and there's not a single undefeated team in the SEC West. Bama has lost. Texas A&M has lost. Ole Miss has lost. Arkansas has lost. All of them. The East has not one, not even 2, but 3 undefeated teams a month into the season. Georgia, Kentucky, and Missouri. It's hard for me to go around the interwebs as I like to do, defending the SEC, when I really can only defend half of it. The SEC West is an absolute failure and disaster of a division for the second year in a row. Just a bunch of lifeless deadbeats over there. Unbelievable. Thank God for the SEC East. All right, now that we got that out of the way. There's 3 teams that won yesterday and looked like complete shit doing it. And I'm going to start with the one that surprised me the most. The one that surprised me the most. Right here. Washington. Now, maybe we should have seen this coming. Why? Washington has quietly had probably the best first 4 weeks of the season taken together as a whole versus anyone else. They had no struggle games. They were dominant offensively and defensively. They had a quarterback who was leading the country in almost every passing category known to man. He was the front runner for the Heisman. Yet they're way out west. It's been a long time since they were relevant nationally in terms of any type of playoff discussion or anything like that. But all of a sudden, this last week, everybody and their brother, including me, starts talking about Washington. Watch out for Washington. I don't want to play Washington. Washington looks scary. Washington looks like the most complete team. Washington has been the most dominant team through the first 4 weeks. Everywhere you looked, whether it was YouTube channels, websites, talking heads on TV, satellite radio, literally everybody. If they weren't talking about Colorado, because that's a law, you have to spend at least half of your time talking about Colorado if you have a national show. The other half of the time, they was talking about Washington, how good they are. And so maybe we should have seen this coming. But right on cue, Washington came out and struggled and got lucky to win this thing 31-24 against Arizona. And Arizona's not a good team. Shout out to my man Zona Tucson. Arizona's not great. 31-24, Washington escapes with a win. Penix, 0 touchdown passes in that game. So glass half full, you go, hey, Penix didn't have it. They shut our passing and receiving down for the most part in terms of scoring, and we found a way to win another way. So maybe you look at it that way if you're a Washington fan. Now, let's be real. Nobody goes through the entire season without being tested. So maybe it was just Washington's turn. But Washington, you won yesterday, but for the first time this season, you look mortal like the rest of us. Welcome to the club. Southern Cal, talked about you already enough. Your defense doesn't exist. You're an absolute failure on that side of the ball. You had to survive an onside kick at the end of the game to beat lowly Colorado. You ought to be embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. And if I see any of the Southern Cal people running around, I'm going to straight up ask you, please tell me you don't think you're a national title team, because you're not. We've seen this exact same Lincoln Riley team 6, 7, 8 times. And the best they have ever done is get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So could you make the playoffs still? Yes, you could still make the play. You're not winning again. I don't care who you get matched up with. You got to do better. Horrible. And Georgia, 27-20 on the road at Auburn. Look, Auburn's not a good team, okay? They're not. And this was not a good win. This was not a dominant win. Georgia didn't look great really at any phase of the game. I thought Carson Beck played well, especially in the second half. I mean, he had 316 yards passing. He's top 10 nationally in passing now. So he looked okay. It was good to see Ladd McConkey back, although he was very limited. Didn't play very much, only had a couple of catches. Brock Bowers just broke out in the second half. There's nothing Auburn could do, particularly that fourth quarter. He had 120 yards receiving just in the fourth quarter. But the defense, here's what it is with Georgia. The defense, the offensive line, and the running backs. Those are the issues. Not Mike Bobo, not Carson Beck. This is casual, just people just waiting to look. It doesn't matter how the Georgia games go to these people. The minute Georgia doesn't beat somebody 100-0, there are a group of people, Georgia fans included, lined up ready to go. I knew it. It's Carson Beck and Mike Bobo, because they made up their mind in the offseason before they ever saw. They didn't want Mike Bobo hired. They don't like Carson Beck because he's not from the state of Georgia. Anybody could have seen this coming a mile away. Okay, and that's what they're doing. Watch the games. Carson Beck's a top 10 quarterback in the country. That's just a fact. You don't have to like it, but that's a fact. Look it up. Almost 80% completion rate, averaging over 300 yards a game. He's on pace to break every single season passing record in the history of the University of Georgia. It's not a Carson Beck issue. It's not a Mike Bobo issue, okay? It's not. It's an offensive line issue. It's not nearly as good as it was hyped up to be. The talent is there. The talent is there. The offensive line is not playing up to their ability, particularly in the run game. It's a running backs issue. With the running backs, it is a talent issue. We don't have talented running backs, not like we're used to having. Cash Jones was playing in the second quarter yesterday. This is a 5'5" walk-on. He was playing, not just playing, getting carries. He's RB2 right now. Our RB2 is a walk-on. We've got Dejon Edwards, who is basically, I don't want to put Dejon Edwards down. I like Dejon Edwards. Dejon Edwards is consistently above average. Ceiling-wise, talent-wise, potential-wise, he's not in the same universe as the RB1s Georgia is used to having. Every other running back we have is not currently playing. Kendall Milton played like one play yesterday. That's it. Now he's on the milk carton again. Roderick Robinson, true freshman, nowhere to be found, assuming hurt again. Branson Robinson out for the year. Andrew Paul still rehabbing a knee injury from last year. The running back situation is terrible at Georgia. Horrible. And it's not going to get a lot better over the course of the year. So Georgia's got to figure out a way offensively to make it work with what they have, period. I don't want to hear no excuses about, well, if this person was playing or that. You got what you got. You go out there and play. Georgia's got 85 scholarships just like everybody else does. Figure it out. And they've been doing that. But instead of beating teams by 40 or 30, you're beating them by 7 and 10. I'm talking about Auburn and South Carolina. But the offensive line, not good. And defense. The defense is nowhere. Look, you can't even compare this defense to 2021. Forget it. It's not in the same universe. This defense isn't even close to 2022. Never mind 2021. Chaz Chambliss, I don't know why he's out there. I don't. I don't know. The coaches are smarter than I am. But how many times do we have to watch Peyton Thorne run around you yesterday? Because you're crashing down every time instead of setting the edge. I don't know. I'm asking. How many times do we have to watch that? Really, outside of the secondary, I've been disappointed in Georgia's defense this year, and that includes the inside linebackers, which I thought would be a strength of the team. Smile Munden, Xavier Sorey, Pop Johnson. None of them are terrible. They're all legitimate SEC level starters. None of them are playing like first rounders right now. None of them. The defense, especially against the run, and it's easy to point to yesterday's Auburn game where we gave up 200-something rushing. This has been a problem all year. Now, no one's ran for 200, but the run defense is nowhere near what it's been in the past. And we're getting ready to play Kentucky this week. They better tighten that shit up. Kentucky will come in there and beat Georgia. Here's the thing about Georgia. There hasn't been a single week this year where they've looked like the best team in the country. Not one. Last year, there was multiple weeks in the first month of the season where you went, wow, Georgia might be the best team again. That's not the case this year. It's just not. Can Georgia get better? Yeah, but so can everyone else. Anyone can get better or worse. We don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. I still say somebody's going to have to line up and beat Georgia for me to believe it's going to happen. But Georgia looks very beatable. Very beatable. They're turning the ball over in almost every single game. There's too many times in the first half where we're not getting points is what it comes down to in the first half. The second halves have been great. How about this for a weird stat? In the first quarter of games this year, you add up every first quarter Georgia has played. And I know I don't need to remind y'all who we've played because y'all tell me all the time, but it's UT Martin, Austin Peay, South Carolina, UAB, or Ball State, and or UAB, whatever the fuck. 3 nobodies, South Carolina and Auburn. That's who we've played. You add up all the scores from the first quarter, it's tied. It's tied. That's no excuse for that. That might be the most embarrassing Georgia stat I've seen this year, and I've seen a lot of embarrassing ones. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It seems to me like maybe some sort of attitude has permeated the building in UJ. Like, well, we're just going to show up and win. So they show up, and at the end of the first quarter, they're not winning. Now sometimes they've been winning at the end of the first quarter, but total first quarter scores is tied. That's unacceptable. Georgia won a lot of games a lot of Georgia games were over last year at the end of the first quarter. So is Georgia the best team in the country right now? No, I don't think they are. Like I said, there hasn't been a single week where they've looked like the best team. Here's the problem. There's no other one team that is dominant week in and week out. There's not. Now, there have been plenty of teams that look better than Georgia in a given week. Florida State, that win against LSU in week 1, super impressive. Then you go to Boston College and win by 2. Now, I'm not saying that to say that means Georgia's better than Florida State. I'm using that as an example. There's just no team that's been Texas tied with Wyoming 10-10. Michigan is probably the closest. Michigan really hasn't struggled this year. But to be honest with you, when I watch Michigan, they don't really look like the best team either. This is my top 5 last week, before yesterday's games. Last week, my top 5 was Michigan, Florida State, Georgia, Texas, Penn State. I redo my top 25 every Monday, but I can tell you right now, this is coming down. You're not the third best team, Georgia. You can only live off of last year for so long. I know everybody likes to say you can't use last year. You got to forget about last. It's impossible. You can't handicap games. You can't pick games. You can't rank teams. You can't do anything in the first couple of weeks of the season and pretend that nothing before that exists. So Georgia got the benefit of the doubt from me and everyone else, being ranked number 1 after winning back-to-back titles. The entire first month of the season has been played. This is not the best team in football. It's not. There hasn't been one week where Georgia looked like the best team. There's been a week where you can make a case for Michigan being the best team. There's been a week where you can make a case for Florida State. There's been a week where you can make a case for Texas. There's been several weeks where you can make a case for Penn State. Last week, you could have made a case for Ohio State when they beat Notre Dame. Except for this past weekend, you could make a case for Washington, not Georgia. So I redo my top 25 every Monday, but I'm giving you a sneak peek right now. Because I can't decide, look, I'm going to keep Michigan at 1 for the same reason I kept Georgia at 1 for the first couple of weeks of the season. I don't know who to move ahead of them. I don't know. Okay, so again, I don't necessarily think Michigan's the best team. But they've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. They've won the Big Ten 2 years in a row. They've blown out everybody they've played this year. I know who had they played. I know that. But for now, I'm going to leave them 1. I'm going to leave Florida State 2. I'm sliding Texas up to 3. I'm sliding Penn State up to 4, and I'm putting Ohio State at 5. Ohio State was off this week. They didn't play, but they beat a good Notre Dame team on the road. And they're probably going to get better offensively as the season goes along. I'm going to move Ohio State to 5. For 6 through 10, I feel like we've given other teams some benefit of the doubt when they've had a bad week or two. So I'm going to give Washington the benefit of the doubt for a struggle win against a bad Arizona team. I'm going to move them up to 6. I'm going to move Oregon up to 7. Now, Southern Cal won, but barely. I'm putting Georgia right ahead of Southern Cal. I'm going to put them right ahead of Southern Cal. Utah was here. They lost. Here's Utah. They lost, so they won't be there. So who will be 10? Oklahoma? I don't know. I don't know who will be 10, but that'll be 1 through 9 on Monday. Michigan, Florida State, Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, Georgia, Southern Cal. I've seen a month of football. Yes, Georgia is 5-0. They've won 22 games in a row. They are back-to-back champions. That's not going to help them win games this year. Georgia needs to flip a switch or figure some things out or whatever they need to do. The way Georgia has played this year, they won't go 12-0. Now, they don't really need to go 12-0. They need to go 12-1 with an SEC title. That's what they need to do. And look around the SEC. I also haven't seen anything from Georgia that makes me go, well, there's no way they're winning the SEC. Who's beating them? Which garbage can from the SEC West is going to beat Georgia? Bama? No. Come on. LSU? Texas A&M? Stop. So Georgia's got a better chance of missing the SEC title game than they do of making the SEC title game and losing it. They play Kentucky this week. Kentucky could beat Georgia. They 100% could beat Georgia. It's in Athens. Georgia will be favored. I think Georgia will probably win, but Kentucky could beat them. Tennessee later in the year, on the road at Tennessee. Ole Miss at home. Those are the three options. I don't think Missouri's beating Georgia. I don't think Vandy's beating Georgia. I don't think Florida's beating Georgia. But it's hard to defend Georgia at number one anymore. When I'm recording this, the AP and the coaches poll haven't come out yet. They'll probably keep Georgia at one, I would assume. And look, this is going to make some Georgia fans mad that I'm moving Georgia. First of all, I'm not the type of person that thinks if you won a national title the year before, you should be number one the next year, no matter what, until you lose a game. I don't buy into that at all. There's been plenty of years where a team won the national title, and I didn't automatically have them at number one the next year. I had Georgia at number one to start the season this year because I thought they were the best team in football heading into the season. We've played a month now. That's clearly not the case. Every team I've got ranked ahead of Georgia has looked better at points this season than Georgia. So that's why. I still think Georgia can win the SEC. I still think Georgia can make the playoffs. And we'll see what happens from there. But it's hard to justify not moving them down. We've seen enough football at this point. What else do we want to talk about? Maryland looked good and remained undefeated. No way I wrote that down right. 5-0. How about somebody scored 50? No. They did score 44, though. Against who? Indiana. Same Indiana that held Ohio State to 20 points or whatever. Maryland's undefeated. Maryland plays all three of the big boys. Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Y'all think they can beat one of them? They might can. They might can beat one of them. We'll see. Clemson finally got a Power 5 win. Wow. They beat Syracuse, their first Power 5 win of the year. I'm so proud of you. Man, I'm proud of you, Tater man. Oklahoma rolls over Iowa State 50-20. Oregon, we talked about. They beat Stanford 42-6. They were losing 6-0 in the second quarter. So again, you can tell me about the score of the Georgia game in some random quarter, whatever. Oregon was losing 6-0 to Stanford in the second quarter. Now they ended up blowing them out 42-6. Texas, already talked about them, rolled over Kansas. Ole Miss, a big win for Lane Kiffin. Got to give credit where it's due. I've been hard on Lane Kiffin about big games. He won one yesterday. Kentucky, talked about him and Ray Davis. Texas A&M, talked about that. Tennessee. Yeah, almost didn't talk about Tennessee. Didn't move South Carolina's helmet down. They've already got 2 losses. We've already moved South Carolina's helmet twice. But Tennessee won their Super Bowl yesterday. Guess y'all heard about this, but this is the only game that matters to Tennessee this year. This one, a September game at home against lowly South Carolina, a team that's never won the SEC. This is where Tennessee is setting their goals. Man, I hope we can beat Tennessee at home this year at night with gimmick uniforms. That's their mentality. That's the best they can hope for. Well, congratulations, you did it. We're all real proud of you. We beat South Carolina worse than Georgia did. We've been down this road. You do this to yourself every year. You find some game somewhere where you looked better against that team than Georgia did, and you convince yourself that means something. It don't mean a fucking thing, Hill Jack. Not a goddamn thing. Fucking idiot. What's wrong with you? I'm seriously asking. Josh Heupel's played Georgia twice. In 2 years, he scored a total of 3 touchdowns against Georgia. Georgia defense not as good. Tennessee offense not as good. I mean, I come right back at you. Joe Milton doesn't know what he's doing. You got a good ground game. Good luck with that is all I can tell you. Good luck with that. You better start planning your gimmick for the Georgia game now. You're going to need to reach way down into the gimmick bag of tricks if you want to have a chance against Georgia in November. But you did beat South Carolina. You won your Super Bowl. It was unbelievable. Amazing. Can't wait to see the trophy in the rings and all that kind of thing. And then Spencer Rattler, even in defeat, trolled y'all silly asses after the game when he congratulated y'all for winning your Super Bowl. You know how humiliating it is to have the opposing quarterback congratulate you for winning your Super Bowl in a regular season game in September. Wow. Now, if I could be serious for a second, Brew McCoy, that injury looked absolutely horrible. They didn't show the replay for obvious reasons. I haven't heard an update. It doesn't look good. I think this is his last year of eligibility. too. Just awful. And then you got the whole thing where the TV crew had done a whole segment on how his entire family had flown into town for this game, and it was just a big thing. And to see him have to get carted off like that is terrible. And it's a good reminder to all of us on here that spend an inordinate amount of time bitching and moaning and yelling and screaming and arguing with each other about the game of college football. It's an important reminder to all of us that we're not the ones who are really out there risking it. They are. And on any play can be their last. And I hope that's not the case for Brew McCoy. Just like I would, I don't wish that on anybody. And I hope he's able to make a full recovery, whatever that means. If he can't play football again, I hope he's able to go on and just lead a productive life doing something, and I'm sure he will. I hope he can play football again. That was just a really bad injury, and I didn't want the video to go by without at least mentioning that. And I like to troll the Tennessee people and all that, but that nobody liked that. Nobody liked that. Michigan looked good again, 45-7 over Nebraska. Penn State 41-13 over Northwestern. They just keep rolling. Notre Dame over Duke. Missouri won again, beat Vandy 38-21. Mizzou's undefeated. So is Kentucky. So is Georgia. They're all in the SEC East. If you're walking by a toilet right now, flush it. Let's just get rid of the West. They're just 7 piles of shit. That's all they are. Heisman list. Here you go. Here's my Heisman list. No particular order. This is my top 5. If I was going to vote on the Heisman today, these would be the 5 people I would say deserve votes. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix, Jordan Travis. I think Brock Bowers is the best player in football. I think Marvin Harrison is 1B. I think Brock Bowers and Marvin Harrison are the 2 best players in football. Unfortunately, I don't think either one of them is winning the Heisman. I think it's going to be a quarterback. It's such a great year for quarterbacks. A quarterback is going to win it. And it's most likely going to be a Pac-12 quarterback. But I think Quinn Ewers has got a shot too. But my list again, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jordan Travis out of the ACC, Quinn Ewers out of the Big 12. That would be my top 5 in Heisman as of right now. I think Shedeur Sanders should be a Heisman candidate. I just don't think Colorado is going to have the win total. And, we've all seen in the world of college football, if you're not winning 8-9 games, you're not even getting considered for the Heisman. So for that reason, I didn't include Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter's hurt. And when you miss time, you just don't win the Heisman. It is what it is. So that's why those 2 aren't on the list. There you go. Your season is over. Week 5 edition. Top 25 video will be out tomorrow, Monday. And then we'll get started with the preview videos and the prediction videos for next week. But we all know the biggest game of the week, number 23 on deck for my dogs. Man, Georgia's won 22 in a row. About to be 23. Is 23 Uncle Lou's lucky number? Well, maybe. Maybe. You know Uncle Lou used to play football, don't you? Kentucky. Victim number 23. Uncle Lou, number 23. Y'all are fucked.